So here's the question. Is it actually working? Am I going to be trouble-free? Will there be no technical issues today? Because I would like to talk about the Curse of Strahd. I know it's not the end of the month, but hey, I was ready to run the video and the topic was done, so let's cover it because we might as well. I've got nothing better to do, as it happens. So for those of you who are wondering what's going on, I am currently trying to figure out where my live stream is. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to hopefully allow people who have probably not been notified that this video was going to be presented. That's YouTube for you. But the good thing is that I am going to give people a few seconds before I get into this. And of course for the ad to run, because apparently I can't skip it, you suck. Now, for those of you who are still wondering what's going on, I am waiting for the ad to finish. Okay, all right, there we go. I can see sound and video coming through. That's good news. Let's try the webcam and see if it picks up my face or will it crack. It's always nice to see if it doesn't crack. Okay, so I think we've got some sound coming through fine. I think we've pretty much got the video and the cameras working. Oh my God, there it is. Okay, bit of a delay, but we got there. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Curse of Strahd. I promised a Q&A or questions and answers on the Curse of Strahd. I am going to try to stay to my word. I know it's not exactly the end of the month, but who cares? I'm ready. Now, if you haven't been part of my live streams, I will put a link down in the description to where the video actually starts. For those of you who are wondering what's going on. Now, my videos will not be going unlisted straight away because I did a poll. A few of you actually responded, and so the video will stay public until the edited version of the video goes up. The edited version will obviously be public, and then as soon as that happens, this unlisted video will go, and with this video, the live stream, will go unlisted and into a playlist called Curse of Strahd Dungeon, it's a DM Guide live streams. So if you really need to find them, there are a few videos that I do that with, and it's usually the Dungeon Master guides around an adventure. That doesn't happen with all of my videos, but in this case, that's what will happen. If you're a Patreon patron, through Patreon, it won't be an issue. Okay, now, good news for those of you who are hoping that you didn't have to worry about trying to find it later on. It will be there. YouTube doesn't notify you nowadays. I don't know what it is. All right, I'm going to pull out this. I don't need this anymore. So we are going to run through my notes, which, as it happens, FHubber has provided me with last-minute notes to add in. Fred, yeah, really made me sort of work hard there, I'll tell you that now. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to present all my notes. There's about 2 pages of notes to work through, and then I'm going to use slides so you won't see my face, and once I've done the presentation, which I don't think will take more than about 10 minutes, it'll probably be a lot less than that. Once it's done, we'll go back to the webcam and my face, and we'll do a Q&A and questions and answers around the Curse of Strahd. Since I have run the adventure, and I did run the original Ravenloft adventure as well. Okay, all right. So, I do have other credentials, but that's all the credentials you get from me today. Okay, here we go. So grab some food, settle back, get a drink, make yourself comfortable, and let's talk about the Curse of Strahd. Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And the topic for today is Walmart. No, it's not actually. I had you there. No, we're going to talk about how to use or using the black carriage in the Curse of Strahd. How do you actually use it in your adventure in a way that will be useful to you? Now, for those of you who are here and are playing through this adventure, this is a Dungeons and Dragons Curse of Strahd Dungeon Master Guide. I said Dungeon Master Guide, not suitable for players. So if you are playing in this adventure, go and watch a different video. I have a player's guide for the Curse of Strahd. You're welcome to watch that or something else, but don't watch this because there will be tactical information and strategies and a few spoilers listed throughout this video, and that would ruin it for you, and I don't want to do that for you, so please don't watch the video. If you're a dungeon master, you need to stick around because we've got things to talk about. The Black Carriage is a Dungeon Master tool. I think that's not necessarily clear when you look at the adventure book itself. It has many different uses which are not spelled out in the adventure book. You get one thing, that's it. So here are a few different ideas that you can use or ignore, I don't mind, it's up to you, in your game. So number one, real simple, the Black Carriage can be used to transport Strahd around Barovia. Pretty boring, pretty simple, pretty easy, can be done. There are other ways that Strahd can travel around Barovia, I am aware of this, but it is one way of ramping up the tension in the players' characters, or at least the players in some cases. Really, we want to ramp up the tension in players rather than their characters. Who cares about the characters? Okay, number two, the carriage can be used by Strahd to send a message to people in Barovia, specifically the characters or the players' characters. This could be in the form of a letter sitting on the seat or a servant that delivers the message. Now, you could have the carriage pull up right beside your party, the door flies open and there's a letter addressed to one of them or all of them sitting on the seat. And all they have to do is reach in there if they're brave enough to grab that thing. Or there might be a servant who's riding on top or in the carriage who delivers them a verbal message or even a written message. It's up to you. You could do it in a couple of different ways. Number three, you can have the carriage travel the roads of Barovia completely empty. Why are we doing this? We're trying to scare the players and their characters because they will be assuming that Strahd is in the carriage. But if there's actually nobody there, they won't know unless they actually stop the carriage or try to look inside. And are they brave enough to do that? Particularly at low level. You'll find this really useful at low level, and really there's no risk to the players whatsoever and their characters. They just don't know that. You as a Dungeon Master do. So I like this one. This works out pretty well. Okay, number four on my list here is Strahd can use the Black Carriage to summon an individual from the party or the entire party to meet with him away from the castle. There might be a meeting point that he thinks would be useful and he wants to discuss something with them. And I'm not talking about using it as a way of drawing or summoning them so that they can have a fight or a battle, because that's not really what we're looking for. What we're looking for, I mean, maybe that is what you're looking for. What we're looking for is a way of developing a relationship between the players' characters and Strahd. And the only way to do that is to have enough points of contact throughout the adventure to make that work. And in some cases you might find that Strahd summoning them to do a job for him, they could turn him down, that's fine. Do they risk it? But there might be a reason why he wants to summon them. It might simply be a way of communicating and learning more about them. Collecting intelligence is very important before you do anything, right? So that's another way of using it. Okay, option number 5. The Black Carriage is an encounter that can be used to scare your characters or your players by having it waiting outside of buildings when the characters exit that building. Everywhere they go, suddenly this Black Carriage is sitting there. It doesn't even have to have a driver. It could just be the horses and the carriage and nothing else, and every time they leave a building, it's waiting for them there. There's nobody saying, okay, would you like to go and have a ride? It's just waiting there for them. So that will really throw a bit of a spine tingle up your players, for those people who are easily scared. But I think that's another tool that you might want to use in your game. Okay, number 6. You may or may not like this. The players' characters could use the Black Carriage to fast travel around Barovia with Strahd sitting with them the whole time. So there may be a way that maybe Strahd gives them a sending stone and they can communicate with Strahd, and every time they want to be taxied around Barovia, they can call up Strahd and he pulls up in his Black Carriage. Now, why would you do this? First off, it's likely to scare your players, and more likely to confuse them completely about Strahd's motives, because they won't trust him. But if he starts helping them to do things, that might change things a little bit. It certainly confused my players immensely, and I enjoyed sitting back and watching them trying to fathom what was going on. They knew there was something up, but it took them a while. Number 7. Otherwise, just use the black carriage to transport the party to Ravenloft as intended, as stipulated in the adventure. It is actually just spelled out. It's a small section, a few paragraphs, blah-de-blah-de-blah. You know that. It's not really anything new. Okay, for those of you who like to sort of really shake things up, pulled this from the community as it happens. Number 8, you could have a screaming maiden or woman hanging out of the window of the carriage as it charges at a breakneck speed throughout the town or along the road. And then, of course, what are they going to do? Are they going to go and help that woman, or are they going to leave them and just assume that she is going straight to hell? she's got a one-way ticket to Ravenloft Castle and Strahd. So there is another way you could use the black carriage. Please, by all means, if you are willing to share, if you have a different way of using the black carriage in the Curse of Strahd, please share that with me. I would be very interested to know what you have done or what you have considered doing. Now, if you like this video, as it happens, I have lots of videos on the Curse of Strahd, and I have lots of videos for players and dungeon masters on pretty much every aspect of Dungeons & Dragons and Dungeons & Dragons 5e, which you're welcome to go and check out. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing this sort of stuff, I have a Patreon page you can check out. I have affiliate links down in the description to the book depository and Amazon. I have a merchandise shelf where you can buy some merch underneath all of my videos. Otherwise, just watch my videos, that's fine too. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live, and I go live a lot, and when I publish new videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. And he's not gone. He's just flipping through things, making sure everything is where it's supposed to be. Okay, so I know this is a short video. I am aware that I did not give you like 20 different ways of using the black carriage. Sometimes I can do that, sometimes I can't. Okay, so I'm going to go through the chat. Now, here's how it works. If I run out of questions in the chat with regard to the Curse of Strahd or any other topic, if you want to talk about something that isn't the Curse of Strahd, I'm happy to do that. That's fine. But once I get to the end of the chat and there's no more questions to answer and there's no more feedback that I need to respond to, then I leave. Okay, so this is your opportunity. I will check my eyes. Let's see if the eyes are actually working today. They may or may not be. Okay, so that might work for a little while. We'll see. Now, I am aware that there is no notification of live streams now. YouTube is not doing that. So it can be a bit tricky to find them. Talk. I'm glad you like the topic. That's good. Fred, you may have noticed that your comment got incorporated into my live stream video at the very last minute. I just did not have a picture that was appropriate, so I just had to pull something out of thin air, and that was pretty much all I had left. It's actually quite hard to find a lot of different images of a black carriage sort of related to the Curse of Strahd, so not quite so easy to do on the fly. It took me a while just to get those images together. Pardon me, I need a drink of water. Hi Matt. Hi Matt, how's it going? It's still winter here and I am a bit phlegmy. I do apologise if I'm a bit croaky or I lose it a bit. Managed to get through the live stream, which is good, only because I made sure it wasn't 4 pages long. If that had happened, that would be a problem. Okay. Matt Nerdy, what do you got here? It needs a headless carriage driver with a spine whip. Yeah, I could not find an image like that, Matt. If I had found an image like that, I might very well have put that up there. Hi Sam, how's it going, Sam? Okay, working down here. As I said, questions, chuck your questions and your feedback into the live stream. When I get to the end of it, that's it. This is the Q&A for the Curse of Strahd that I had promised at the end of the month. I know it's not exactly the end of the month, but it's close enough. Okay. What do we got here? What do you got here? Happy to make you do it right. Ah, dear. Okay, Fred. All right, Darren, what do you got here? I missed a lot. Is there any eventual explanation for the carriage? Now, the carriage is actually explained in the adventure and does not need an explanation. The carriage sits there specifically at a juncture point to transport people from wherever you come across it, which is on your way to Ravenloft, or really at the, I believe it is at the crossroads to along the main road, and then there's a branch that leads off to Castle Ravenloft, and it's really there to get players to jump in so that they can be transported straight to the castle. It is controlled by Strahd. He uses his magic, and that's how he's controlling and mind controlling the horses. So they will go and do as he bids. He's probably got some way of actually looking at where the black carriage is, so he knows what it's up to. So if you were wondering about what's going on there, that's probably what is taking place. He does this a lot. You know, Strahd has probably got himself a viewing mirror, or a crystal ball, or some sort of way of scrying on individuals that are set up permanently. I don't think you need to worry about Strahd having to cast the spell. He's been around long enough. He can probably do that all the time because he has a specific piece of equipment or magic item designed to do that. Pardon me. I have a lot of gas. I do apologise. Now, right. So, hey, Uggs. Isn't he the bad guy? Ha. Yes. Now, here's one of the things I did with Strahd in my game. Is I did not present him as I'm the vampire to my players. I did not present him as the bad guy. They journeyed through Barovia, and everybody was telling them Strahd was a bad guy, and they knew he was a vampire. Some didn't, and some did. But they all hated his guts. But every time they actually had an encounter with Strahd, particularly early on, I always presented him as a noble lord who was frowned upon by those below him unfairly. And he was always incredibly nice to the players' characters. He never did anything that seemed untoward. It was only over time, as Strahd started to find that they were collecting too many of the items that would make it possible for them to actually interfere with him, that I started to have him show up, and there would be maybe an attack on the party, or that he would do something or enlist the aid of minions to do his bidding, that he would start sort of targeting them. They wouldn't always know that Strahd had specifically assigned somebody to target them, but they certainly could guess, probably correctly, that he was responsible for doing that. Okay, so that's how I played him. I did not play him as an outwardly evil individual. Okay, Darren, what do you got here? Okay, now you're answering that question. My bad. No problem, Darren, if I've answered that question. Okay. What do you got here, Fred? Strahd in disguise as the driver and giving the PCs rides, acting as a friend and guide to the area. What a great idea. Yeah, look, you don't even have to have Strahd in disguise. You could disguise Strahd, or you could literally just have Strahd with a coach driver, and he's sitting in the actual carriage, pulls up, and I did this to my players. They saw the carriage coming down the road, and I had 7 players. 5 of them saw the carriage coming, and they all took off into the forest and hid. 2 players stopped and decided that they would see what would happen. And Strahd pulled over and asked them if they wanted to have a ride and where they were going. They told him where they were going. He took them to Vallaki and dropped them off and then left and continued on his way. And I completely confused my party at that point. They had no idea what the heck I was playing at. And I kept doing that right throughout the campaign for as long as I could before things started to unwind. And I'm glad you like that idea, Fred. I actually really like your idea, Fred. I thought that was quite a masterful way of throwing in a spanner and making things a bit more interesting. 'Tis the master's carriage, but I can do with it as I want. Exactly. Ah, dear. Esteban. Hopefully I got your name right, Esteban. I do hope I did. I love your videos. Thank you for all the work you do. Oh, okay. So which videos? I'm glad that you like my videos. Is there any particular videos that you like, Esteban? Esteban? Is it Esteban? Could be Esteban. Okay, James. James Van Caster. How many PCs do you recommend to be in a party? Okay, so I did a video called Problems with the Curse of Strahd. And in that video I say about 5+ characters is probably a good idea for the Curse of Strahd. So really, at the higher end. Now I want to make it clear that that is just a guide, okay? It really comes down to the type of players you have. If you have new players who are new to Dungeons & Dragons, new to Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and their first campaign is the Curse of Strahd, which I think is a bad idea myself, but if that's what's happening, then you will probably find that they won't have the mastery of the game that other people do, and therefore their idea of how to deal with situations will be slightly different. They'll be basing it off things like video games, things like that, or what they're used to in terms of playing a game. They won't be used to the nature of Ravenloft and Barovia and the Curse of Strahd. So I would say about 5+ for beginners. If you have extremely experienced individuals who have played Dungeons & Dragons for a long time, they are very familiar with Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and they are min-maxers, power gamers. If they are very, very skilled and know how to make really good decisions, it's entirely possible for that party to get through the entire adventure pretty much unscathed, maybe not completely, because there are some situations that even they will have trouble with just 4 player characters. But that's really experienced people, okay? I haven't really heard of too many groups who did it with 3. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, where are you getting this from? How can you, because I keep getting people who say, why do you talk in terms of, what other people are doing in other games of Curse of Strahd? So here's the thing, for those of you who are unaware. When I was an idiot many years ago, when Dungeons & Dragons 5e first came out, they had what was called Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League, which is organised play. So I put my hand up for the North Island of New Zealand, which is pretty much meant that I was running all of the Adventurers League right throughout the entire country of New Zealand in my country. That was what I was tasked with doing. So I would talk with all the dungeon masters who were running these games, including the Curse of Strahd, and they would tell me what would happen. They would explain to me what they had in terms of party composition. And they would ask me advice on how to deal with those situations. Now, I had not necessarily read the adventure, and was going to run it, but I had run Ravenloft, and I had run a lot of Dungeons & Dragons 5e adventures, or should I say past adventures, and converted them over to Dungeons & Dragons 5e. This is because I was part of the beta test for D&D Next, and I got roped into the alpha playtest. So yes, I was involved in the alpha playtest, which is why my name is in the monster manual for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. So as a result of that, I was aware of a lot of it. I was also aware that the Curse of Strahd was being put out as an adventure before it got put out, because I knew somebody who was part of the non-disclosure arrangement. Okay, so I have a lot of connections And also too, over the years, you run a YouTube channel and you get a lot of people who will tell you a lot of different things with regard to what happened in their adventure, particularly dungeon masters. I find myself being given quite useful information about what took place in their adventure. And if it's not too long, I read them. Okay. And that can be very, very useful. I also do my research. That means I go onto the internet and I go through Reddit and I go through all the forums and I look at the questions people ask and I look at the responses people give based on what they did in their game. That doesn't mean that what they did in their game is always going to be the case for every game. There is different, there is going to be a difference. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. I've explained enough. Let's move on. Okay. So, Darren, you can scroll the video back to beginning. It works. Yes, you can do that. I would suggest, though, Darren, this is an opportunity for you to interact with me. This is why I do this sort of thing. You can always go back and do that later. Remember, the live stream will not go unlisted until I put out the edited version, which will take a few days. It'll take a while. It's all right, Darren. No, you don't have to feel sorry or anything like that. I do know that a lot of people are kind of curious as to why I talk in terms of, why I answer a question a particular way. So yes, I can answer because I have run Curse of Strahd and I have a lot of feedback and experience talking to other dungeon masters who did the same. Okay, all right. So Fred has said four PCs. As I said, I still feel like 4 PCs experienced and 5 players for beginners. Just to make it a little bit easier in terms of some of those encounters they will face. Oh, hi John, how's it going, John? Now, John, I could swear I answered one of your comments not so long ago. Your name is very familiar. Would you say that adding homebrew content would dilute the Curse of Strahd experience? Currently DMing the module and thinking about adding an island in Lake Zarovich with a village or ruins. Okay, all right. So here's the thing with the Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. There are people out there who believe that they are experts. They may well be experts as far as I'm concerned. And they would consider maybe doing something like that to be a bad thing. To me, it's really simple. You bought the book, John, and it's a guide. You can run it as is in the book, or you can change anything you want. You may have noticed, John, that I just presented a video called Using the Black Carriage in the Curse of Strahd. And I presented you with a whole lot of different ways you could use the Black Carriage that are not listed in the adventure. In other words, I provided you with a way of modifying the adventure. And I'm going to keep doing that. So if you decide that you want to do something different with the Curse of Strahd, then just do it. Because whether it's me or somebody else, we don't have any right and really shouldn't get involved in how you're running your game. It's really simple. So if you want to do that, do that. And it's not going to dilute it. Why would it dilute it? All you're doing is trying to build it out. I know a lot of people who have tried to expand on Barovia beyond what is in the Curse of Strahd. So that's all you're really doing. Yep. Your game. You do it your way. Okay. X Victory X. How's it going? 4 to 5 is just fine. Yep. Like I said, it really does depend on the players, the type of players you have. Some groups will need more, some will need less. Cross that line and there will be significantly less fear in the game and will be more difficult for you to give a proper depth to the PCs. So here's the thing. It's an adventure, okay? Which means that you can run it as a dungeon master and it requires quite a lot of skill to run it any way you like. So if you have a large group, and I suppose at some point I will have to just talk about how to run the Curse of Strahd with a small group and how to do it with a large group, because it always seems to be a, can you do it? How should you do it? Sort of discussion going on. You just do things, you change things up. It's not really a big issue. I can assure you I had 7 people at my table when I ran the Curse of Strahd. I wish I had less, okay, but I did not. It was very popular, the Curse of Strahd. So that means the table was full. Organised play, okay. I could turn people away, and I did. I had about 15 people apply for the public game, and only 7 seats were available. That's how it worked. And I was still able to scare my players, and it didn't have to be character death. I did it other ways. And that doesn't mean that characters did not die in the campaign that I ran, and it does not mean that the players did not figure out how to deal with the situations in the adventure. They did, okay? So I can assure you that it can be done with a range. Can be quite high, can be quite low, but as I said, probably safer for new players to stick with about 5+. 4 to 5 is essentially, I would say, really 4 is an experienced group. Okay, all right, we've done enough talk on that. But, X-Victory's given his point of view as well. Esteban, what do you got here? On your last session, Strahd let the party know he had found Van Richten in the tower. He told the players to get a move on because he was not feeling great when I left. Okay. All right. Okay, so you're retelling what actually took place in your last session. Interesting. I'm sure at some point I will have to... Are you actually playing? Are you running the adventure or playing in the adventure? Okay, no, it sounds like you are the dungeon master. Okay, but see, here's the thing. What you've done is you presented Strahd as having a weakness, which is quite a clever way of going about it. What do you got here, Fred? I can't see a problem with adding more homebrew that is consistent with Barovia area themes. Yeah, exactly. I don't see that it'd be an issue at all. Okay, what could Strahd have done to Van Richten other than kill him? Oh gosh, mate, Strahd has already done that to quite a few individuals in Barovia. So for those of you who are aware of the Mad Mage, Mordenkainen is probably one of the most powerful wizards that there are. He's travelled the multiverse, you might say. And he's got it into his head that he would deal with Strahd, which was a mistake. It was just him, powerful wizard, not going to stand up to Strahd, simple as that. Okay, so Mordenkainen is now the Mad Mage. Now, what did Strahd do to him? Strahd did not kill him. He did not turn him into a vampire. What did he do? He drove him mad. Not only did he drive him mad through torture, and I do believe it does spell it out in the adventure here somewhere, but some of the other rather horrible things that he did is he removed his memory. He's lost his memory. His spell book is gone. All of his spell pouch component pieces, everything that identifies him as being a wizard. The Mad Mage is not to be described as being a mad mage. He doesn't even know that he is a mage. He's just a wild, mad man, essentially. And that's how I would present him, if you like. I have heard of people who have placed him in the adventure, and they presented him as just a mad man. Nobody ever were going to ever figure out that this is Mordenkainen. So, therefore, you can do that pretty easily. Now, where is it? I'm going to flick through here really quickly, and I'm sure I will find that section on the Mad Mage. Yes, it's on page 39, okay? And you'll see that pretty much everything that allows him to be a wizard no longer exists. He actually requires significant assistance from somebody who can figure out that he is Mordenkainen from inconsistent and incomplete information. The chances are that your characters in the party will never figure out that this mad man is in fact Mordenkainen. It's easy as that. And I did actually point that out in the video called Problems with the Curse of Strahd, that you really don't need to worry about the Mad Mage that much, because... So there are some pretty horrible things that Strahd can do other than just kill. Yeah. Strahd can take your soul and put it into another vessel. And I think, actually I almost feel like that's a topic to write down as it happens. What could Strahd do other than kill a character? Whether that be a player character or another NPC or Van Richten, doesn't matter. What can Strahd do that is worse than death? Okay, something like that, in that vein. That means it's probably gonna turn into a video. But I like the question. All right, Skidmodder, how's it going? Skidmodder's got here. I am playing with the Fanes idea. Wherever somebody says his name, he gets a free scry. Okay, all right. Well, nothing wrong with that. Seems fair enough. Personally, I never even worried about something like that. You know, saying his name was not enough. I would imagine that he would actually focus in on particular individuals and pretty much have them on a 24-hour watch. Okay, what else we've got here? Toy with him. After all, he wants to break him. Exactly. Yeah, that's the fun bit. I mean, Strahd is a horrible character. In terms of a villain, he's quite awful. And John likes that idea. There you go. Of course, but what will the players find when they get to the tower? Yeah, well, so here's the thing. The tower doesn't really leave that too many clues. Do you know what I mean? I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Wizard's Tower, right? The Wizard's Tower doesn't give away that much. Not really. The only thing it's going to give away is maybe Van Richten's current habits and habitation there, if you're lucky. And that's probably about the extent of it. All right, Fred, what do you got here? Fun thing to do. Change names of the NPCs and rename Strahd. Oh, yep, you could do that. For the players who have heard of Curse of Strahd, make them guess who it is. Yeah, well, you could do that. I rather like that idea. I think that's a good idea. Darren, how's it going? James, are there any races that you don't recommend for PCs? Do you mainly stick to those available in the player's handbook? Okay, James, fair enough. That's a good question to answer. So, for me, when I ran the Curse of Strahd, I had a session 0, and I told my players I was happy for them to play anything that was in the player's handbook. And then there was a discussion about what other books or content could we use. And I will tend to have some leeway with it. I don't usually let people use Unearthed Arcana because it's playtest material, and the first version of anything that's playtest material is always going to be overpowered, because they do that deliberately. They will trim things down rather than make things more powerful. So I don't get into that, okay? So that's why I do it that way. So for me, I allowed them, lots of different options. At the time, we did not have access to things like Xanathar's Guide to Everything when I ran it. Currently, in the campaign I'm running right now, they are using Xanathar's Guide to Everything. They are using the Player's Handbook and a couple of sprinkling bits and pieces from other source books. But we had a discussion about it, okay? For me, I would be happy with just the Player's Handbook. The only time that I feel like going beyond the Player's Handbook is a really good idea is when the players don't want to use a class. I'm not really fond of subclasses or archetypes in other books. I'm not very fond of them. That's just my personal bias. I'm not very fond of feats. I'm not hugely fond of spells in the other source books. What I am very fond of, though, from taking from other source books, are things like backgrounds. I love the backgrounds, and I really do think the races need to be expanded. I am so sick of fantasy worlds that are full of humans and nothing else, or mostly humans and a sprinkling of other races. It's not really something I'm into. Okay. Okay. So that's answered the question, I think, James. Hi, Matt. My mother always said, "Don't accept rides from strangers." That's right. Hi Brian, how's it going? It's been a while. It has been a very long time since you've been in a live stream with me. Okay, X Victory. Hey, I have a big question. A player is about to leave my party, sadly. Yep. And he accepted a dark gift. How can I give the player a proper finale? I need ideas. Okay, so here's the thing. X Victory. It's not up to you. I personally, for me, this is what I would do: is don't leave it up to yourself. Don't leave it up to me. Go and have a talk to the player and say, without the other players around, have a talk to the person who's leaving your group and say, what would you like to do with your character to finish things up? And do that. Because chances are they'll come up with something far better than I can or you can. That will, because I don't have all the context on behind the character and the person playing that character and your campaign. That would be the best thing to do. So go and talk to your player who is leaving. That's my advice. Oscar, hi sir, thanks for your good work guide. Hi Oscar. Oscar, by the way, has run the Curse of Strahd more times than I can possibly imagine. I would certainly say that Oscar is an expert in the field. Esteban, what do you got here? Well, I've been running Curse of Strahd for about a year now, and your community on topics related to adventure have been a great source of inspiration. Cool, excellent. There's also the lunch break hero. The lunch break hero tends to deal with modification of the adventure rather than explanation or options, although I do feel he does options as well. So it would be worth your while to go and check out his video content as well. You probably already have. Okay, Fred, what do you got here? Depends on how you want to give them the send-off. Do you want the PC to die or send, come to blah, blah, blah. Yeah, as I said, my advice is go talk to the player, okay? Go talk to them. Zachary, how you going? I am running a group for 3 right now. Oh, gosh. I threw Ismark and Esmeralda in to help them. Yep. Esmeralda is kind of also rich to. I'm not sure what that means. I think. Oh, you're talking about Van Richten. Okay, so you're using Esmeralda as Van Richten. I found that Esmeralda, when Esmeralda joins the party, she's very powerful, incredibly powerful. Okay, X Victory, I am afraid that you've used a swear word and it has hidden that message. Okay, so there's a comment that you made. I will give you my opinion, but you can't use a swear word, mate. I'm going to have to hide that. So if you want to communicate that and have it seen, you'll have to rewrite it. Please do not use swear words in the streams. Okay? It is set to unblock those. Okay. So sorry, I was so Esmeralda is very powerful, and if she's part of the party, she can really save their butt. I believe when Esmeralda finally perished with the party in my group, the party was so distraught and they had no way of bringing her back. When they finally got to the Amber Temple, they came across the ability to resurrect somebody, and that was their decision, is they would resurrect Esmeralda, because Esmeralda had saved their bacon so many times. I will say what I say to everybody who runs a very small group in something like this, is if you have 3 players, See if if they are new and inexperienced, then they're going to need a bit of support, and so having Esmeralda and Ishmak is a good idea, but that's a lot of work for you. What you want to do is put it back on them. I would advise giving the players animal companions, or at least 2 of them, or some hirelings. I've done a video on hirelings and animal companions and how to use them in the game. So I would go watch those videos. But if you're doing it this way, going back and doing something else probably won't be an option. If those characters die for any reason and they can't be brought back, or you decide they won't be coming back for whatever reason, then you might decide to use a hireling, and the hireling is controlled by the players, not by the dungeon master. Okay, you let them control the hireling. Okay, animal companions controlled by the player rather than the dungeon master, and that takes a lot of the strain off you. I feel like we're already looking at small groups in the Curse of Strahd. Let's mark that down. Small groups in the Curse of Strahd. Although a lot of the videos I've already done probably answer this question more than adequately. There may be some slight adjustments made for the theme behind the Curse of Strahd, but that's probably about it. Maybe the types of animal companions and hirelings you have could be a bit more varied. Okay, ex-victory. Well, I think that giving a sense of death, but actually getting soul eaten by a visage would be great. But I don't know how to transfer that to action. Yeah, that's pretty dark. I check with your player before you start doing that. Check with your player. Often when I was using dark gifts in the Curse of Strahd, I would talk to my players and I would make it abundantly clear to them that there was a way of removing the dark gifts if they decided they were too troublesome or problematic. Because there is a point where they aren't an advantage, they are a disadvantage. Having your eyes melted away is a bad thing, okay? And only having blind sight up to 30 feet is bad if you are a ranged character and use a bow. I think maybe discuss that with your player. Just my advice, you do not need to listen to it though. The Chuckle Monkey, how's it going? So if I only had 3 players, is it a bad idea to add an NPC? No, it's not a bad idea to add an NPC Chuckle Monkey. You can do that if you want. If you are happy to run an NPC, then do that. But you can make it easier for yourself by giving the players a sidekick or a hireling or a sellsword or an animal companion that they control, and you don't have to worry about that then. You've got enough work as it is. As far as I'm concerned, dungeon masters work hard enough, they don't need extra work. Okay, all right. And we're on to the second glass of water. And we're coming up on the 12-minute mark, so I better get moving. Hi, John. What do you got here? What's your opinion on the Curse of Strahd Reloaded write-up? It's a pretty comprehensive Google Doc that some user on Reddit wrote up. So you'll find that the Curse of Strahd Reloaded will have lots of really useful information. It's probably full of stuff that I've already pulled off the internet because, as you say, it's taken from Reddit and compiled. I don't have an opinion on it, I think people seem to think that I will have an opinion that doing this a particular way is a bad idea. But I have come across so many people, and their Curse of Strahd campaign has run very differently to my own and very differently to some of my friends. I have a friend, Mark, who ran his campaign. His campaign was very different to my own. Things just developed in a slightly different way because of the players and because of the dungeon master. And people take different actions and people approach things a different way. I don't have any opinion any other way. So I'm not going to say that it's good or bad, because that's not really why I'm here. If that makes sense. Do I have any thoughts on Fanes, Skid Modder? Not really, not particularly. If you want to do it, then do it. I've told people before. Look, if you want to do something at least twice before you decide that it's a bad idea. Okay? I think the only time I will never do something twice is when I put a level 1 group up against a Tyrask. And it did not go well, and not for the reasons you might imagine. I can assure you, you will not have guessed what took place at all. But I will never do that again, because I realised the error of my ways with regard to that. And I did not see a way of... There were too many problems to contend with dealing with something like that. So that's why I've only ever made that mistake once. But every other mistake I usually done at least twice. Okay. And, try things. You've got to try things to figure out stuff. What do you got here, Fred? Without having seen the Reloaded, the writer is pushing his luck versus copyright law. But you as a DM are free to do any... Yeah. Personally, I wouldn't worry. If that would be an issue, I'm pretty sure Reloaded is up on the DM's Guild. And if it's up on Drive-Thru RPG, then Wizards of the Coast would have spotted it a long time ago. I don't think you're going to see anything like that taking place, Fred. I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. The issue is he made it public and it's not based on open license stuff. Yeah. Well, they would have taken it down by now if that was really an issue. Okay, D&D Homebrew. Now, D&D Homebrew has a channel, and I recommend you go and check out his stuff because I enjoy it. I've been watching a lot of his stuff recently. Certainly not your mainstream big ends YouTube material, which I have to say I'm kind of thankful for. So, great advice, Fred, on homebrewing stuff in Curse of Strahd. I love taking modules even as thorough as the Curse of Strahd. And yes, the Curse of Strahd is a thorough and very dense module, and adding my own stuff. Yeah, and I think that's what people should definitely do with the Curse of Strahd, is they should take it and they should do something else with it. It should have been obvious to people. I would like to think that because of the Ravenloft Fortunes, that's the card drawing, the Taroka deck, when you do those drawings, the intention is to make the adventure different for everybody. Okay? It's not just that you could play, the same group could play through it again and have a different experience. It's that everybody's experience will be slightly different. So if you hadn't figured that out, then modify away. Oh yeah, I can definitely see that. You could probably get the whole story from just that document. Yeah, possibly. We'll see. Dang, that's a great thing to do with the Mad Mage. Yeah, well, and yes, there will be a video on the Mad Mage. I'm not ready to do that yet. We'll talk in detail about the Mad Mage eventually. Okay, all right. Zachary, what do you got here? If an NPC travels with a party, is it due to transform soon from lycanthropy? When would be some fun times to make that happen? My players are approaching Vallaki with Ismar and... Okay, all right. So for those of you who are wondering what the heck to do with somebody traveling with a party, say, for example, one of your players' characters gets bitten by a werewolf and is inflicted with lycanthropy, how would you play it out? I had this happen in my game, okay? This is what I did. I mentioned all the things, there were the telltale signs for the players, all the players, that this character was going through some sort of transformation. And every time there was a battle or a combat, I would make the player roll a dice. Now the check for losing control of their character and transforming into a werewolf was very much tied to the full moon to begin with, but over time, less so. And this meant that there were some occasions where having all the benefits of a werewolf, or a good portion of them, was really useful. And other times where it would completely go backwards on everybody, and this happened in the group. As a result, when I think it was a druid player who had the druid character transformed into a werewolf at an inappropriate time, lost control of his character, and tore through the entire group. And that druid had summoned about, was it 8 wolves or 6 wolves? They had a lot. As a result, Esmeralda gets killed. And a whole bunch of characters get really badly hurt. And it just messed up the party really bad. And of course, they would never let that character back into the party because he was inflicted with the werewolf curse. Now, they could remove that by using remove curse. I said, look, you can use remove curse, but, there's a, maybe we shouldn't do that just yet. Maybe he can manage it. Maybe he can hold it on. But I would keep making the DC harder and harder and harder. And it was all about being able to control yourself. So I made it I believe it was a wisdom check. I didn't know what else. I could have made it something else, I guess, but I decided a wisdom check was what I was going to use, and they would have to make that check every time. I took down their number, so they didn't even know I was making that check for them. Later on, when they started losing control, then I would make it clear, and then they would roll the dice, and so they could then metagame a bit. So that's a way of dealing with one of your players or an NPC being a werewolf in the group. Because it's only a matter of time before it will backfire on them. Right. Yeah, transforming inside of Valaki would be the best way to get kicked out for sure. All right, John. What would recommend in terms of other Ravenloft content? No, I can't answer that question, John. I'm not conversant enough with all of the older Ravenloft content that I could tell you that sort of stuff. That's outside of my expertise. I've run the original Ravenloft adventure, which is essentially just the castle and a couple of key locations, and that's it. And, the village of Barovia, and that's all that. But if you're talking about all of the supplementary content they produced over the years, I could not tell you because I have not used it. Okay. X Victory. If I GM to another group, I would have done so much things in a different way. Yep. Or just easy erase things out of my mind completely. They are times you look back and think, yeah, you do. Although I will not ever probably run it again because I've run Ravenloft and I've run Curse of Strahd, and it took me almost a year and a half to get through the Curse of Strahd, and I felt quite bad at the end because I felt like I had maybe slightly traumatized my players by the time we got to the end. Dargello. Okay, I'm doing a thing where the party is tracking Van Richten down with Esmeralda. Yep. And VR is tracking down Mordenkainen. Oh, okay. All right. Something you can do, you can tie into Ravenloft. Curse of Strahd easily is the ancient module L1 Secret of Bone Hill. You can find it as a PDF. So I can tell you that Fred Hubber will have significant experience in the area. Well, I don't always agree with Fred, but he's got probably more experience with those areas than I do. So, yeah. Thank you, Fred. Von Richten. I'm losing my voice. I do apologise. I can't... okay. Hi, Tom. How's it going? Matt, you beat me to it, Fred. Animal Companions highly recommended the Exploding Toad. The Exploding Toad. Yeah, I remember you mentioning this Exploding Toad. Yeah, I can't do anything about the the poor notifications on live streams. They changed everything again. It's ridiculous. Demote. I'm in last session next week. Players just attacked Strahd in his dining room during a dinner invitation. Any tips for using Strahd in his castle? Yes. By now, if your players have done their job correctly, they will have accumulated enough allies, enough magic items, and enough things that really will make it possible for them to take on Strahd and probably destroy him. That would be my assessment. My advice to you is make sure you enlist and get as many allies, minions, and forces in place to protect Strahd. Because at this point, I don't know what level your characters are, but when my party did, they destroyed the castle. They had trouble bashing through the front line of minions that I had brought into play, and they let off what I can only describe as a daylight nuclear bomb, which decimated zombies and other undead things and really hurt Strahd badly. Okay, and I would imagine your group are going to be capable of doing that at that point, and that's fine. You will find that the very final confrontation with Strahd is not necessarily going to be the big hyped up climactic battle that you were expecting. The chances are you already had that climactic battle. The climactic battle, when they finally face Strahd and defeat him, is in all likelihood it will be very one way. I actually had Strahd send them off on lots of tasks to keep them away from him, so that he didn't have to deal with them, because there was a point where I had assumed that Strahd understood that he was going to be outmatched. And so never make him a solo boss. Absolutely. Do not do that. But also be aware that the final confrontation may be quite one way in terms of how it turns out. And don't freak out if that happens. Yep, moving through walls is always good. Moving through walls. Use everything you've got at your disposal. But yeah. Now, I think I missed somebody here. King. Hi, King. How's it going? Try things twice is also good advice. Sometimes you don't get a good sense the first time. Exactly. That's why I go with try things twice. Yep. What else I got here? My suggestion, if using the feigns, is to take it slow. Throw suggestions of them out in the world, and if the players take the, all right, yep, why not? Fine, if it's working, do it. Has Curse of Strahd lost any or gained content in the 5e compared to the other editions? I heard that some locations that weren't as connected to the rest of the story were removed. I couldn't have dreamed that though. No, John, that's not true. Okay, so the original Ravenloft adventure, before they produced a whole lot of supplements after, that was supposed to expand the Dread lands. It was only about 35, 36, maybe 40 pages long, the original adventure that was first put out. It is only the castle, the village of Barovia, and the Black Carriage, as far as I remember. Maybe the entry point in the mist. That's it. So all of the other stuff in the Curse of Strahd is additional content. So they have not removed anything. They actually put more stuff in. Okay? If you take into consideration all the supplementary stuff, then I suppose you could say they've taken something out. But personally, I think that's just being difficult. If somebody's saying that, I think that's just being really difficult. And a bit short-sighted, because they did a really good job. They put a lot of stuff in, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, you know. Okay, east of west. Thank you for so many good videos. You're welcome. My first DM session was with the Lost Mine of Fendelvar, and your videos guided me through. I'm glad that's worked out for you. Excellent. I have an appointment with Matthew Perkins, who has done a starting to do a series of videos. He's done 2 so far on the Lost Mine of Phandelver, and I'm going to be doing hopefully a lot of video discussions or videos with him talking about the Lost Mine of Phandelver. I guess breaking it down, modifying it, 2 different perspectives rather than just one, at the same time. So yeah, you should see that coming in the future. John, last question for you now. Have your players explored all of the crypt where he got when they got into the castle? 40-something tombs sounds like a lot of stuff. I think there's a lot more than 40, if I remember right. No, they did not, because Strahd was waiting for them in my adventure down in the crypt. And I did not let them explore too far. Instead, I made sure that his brides, Strahd, and any other minions that were not destroyed at this point, because they had been to Castle Ravenloft a few times, and so they had decimated some of his forces. But every time they'd gone in, they had bitten off too much and they had fled. And then eventually, the very last time, they decided that they should not go to Castle Ravenloft until they had gained every advantage they could find. That's the final climax that I had in my adventure. I'm losing my voice, guys. Yep, Fred is right. Solo monsters, no. Not a good idea with a vampire. They can't hold up. John, also thank you and everyone else in chat for answering questions. Hey, John, that's what this is for. I will see everybody next week. Next month. End of next month. We'll do another one on the Curse of Strahd. So I will talk to a specific topic and we'll do the Q&A after. You're welcome, Dumont. East or west. I'll keep an eye out. Let us know about the future projects. Yes, I will. Yep. There are quite a few future projects that are waiting to be edited, and I'm just having not enough time to get through them. Here's a question. I've traumatized my players so much they've just arrived at the Abbey. And after meeting the abbot and seeing, Yeah, look, I can totally understand that. It's the Abbey's not a nice place, and the story behind it is really horrible. So I can totally understand if the players have decided they were going to bug out, and it's probably a smart move. A lot of the time, players in my group they'll make an assessment in terms of risk, and like, okay, this seems too hard for us. We're going to go. That happened when they were trying to cross the bridge and get to the Amber Temple, because that big rock just messed them up so badly. And therefore, they decided the first time, we're not crossing the bridge. It's too hard. We'll just come back some other time. And that's exactly what they did. The abbot has dashed after them and is protesting their leaving. Let me help you, and that's where I have ended. Look, if they want to leave, let them leave. That's what I would suggest you do. Okay? You can still have the Abbey protest them leaving and try to see if he can help them, which of course he's probably not. But, it's part of the choice factor. They do not have to go to a location straight away. They can deal with those locations later on. It's a sandbox. That's the whole point behind it. They make decisions about what is worth the risk and what isn't. John, yeah, I'm worried my players are going to just start noping out of places after a while like that. Yeah, but John, here's the thing. You do not have to worry about that. They'll say nope, but they will come back. Once they start getting a bit more powerful, as long as you don't keep pumping up the location and making it more powerful, they will eventually, by the product of improving their skills and improving their character's power and gaining levels, they will be able to deal with those locations and they will return. Okay? That's what my players did. Yeah, you can provide a side quest if you want, but they could just go somewhere else. And you're welcome. All right, okay, I have to go. I am going to lose my voice, and I don't want to do that. I actually I need to be able to talk. Hey, I hope everybody found this Q&A and the content on how to use the black carriage useful. I will see everybody in about a month's time for the next one. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, afternoon, night, or early morning, look after yourself, your family, and your friends, and be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.